بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters in Islam, sometimes you come across posts and you see things and you wonder what exactly is going on, and you think to yourself, what exactly has led us here? How did we as an ummah, as Muslims, as a community, how did we sink so low? How did we get this far? And I had such a feeling when I came across a post on Facebook, an advertisement for an event called Sunnah Soulmates. And this event is advertised as a gathering for single Muslim brothers and sisters to come together and to get to know each other on that night for the purposes of marriage. This is what it's advertised as. And this event took place here in Sydney, Australia, maybe about 5 days ago or so, sometime at the start of this week, I think. And on that Facebook post, a picture was put up after the event took place. A picture was put up of of what was happening at the event. And here you see this picture, and you see in the middle, find your soulmate. And you see that you have brothers lined up and you have sisters lined up, and the lights are dimmed and there's neon lights and atmosphere and everybody's dressed up, and you wonder to yourself, what exactly is going on here? And even though this has been advertised as some kind of Islamic thing, but really when you look at the picture, it's nothing but free mixing and dating and an imitation of the activities of the kuffar that has nothing to do with Islam, but they've given it an Islamic flavor. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Whoever imitates a people, then he is from them. Is this how far we've come? How far we've sunk? Because you look at this and you think, like, what are these females and males doing? What are they lined up for? What kind of activities are taking place? What are the interactions? Are the males checking out the females? Which one am I going to go for? Are the females checking out the males? If she doesn't like him, she moves on to the next. What exactly is going on here? And if you look at other pictures, you see the candles and everything looks like it's been decorated. And if you didn't know any better, if you didn't have the Islamic title, it just looks like at any normal kind of gathering from the kuffar, and the only thing is missing is the alcohol. And subhanallah, when you look at the details of this event, they say that on this night, what happens is there's activities that are performed by both the males and the females. And they say during the event, attendees will be seated at tables consisting of 8 to 10 people, focusing on a balance between genders. What exactly is this event? How exactly is Islamic? How do you bring together males and females and sit them together on a table? What are these interactions going to be? What are they going to talk about? How do they interact? How can you have Islamic interaction? What if all the males on that table are only interested in one female? Are they all going to try and chat up one female? What if the sisters are only interested in one male? What do the rest of the activities consist of? How do they interact? What exactly happens? How has this got to do with anything with Islam? And if you see the main picture that they use to advertise this event, this Sunnah Soulmates event, you see this picture, they use a brother and a sister. I don't know what they're doing in this picture with their hands on each other. It's so suggestive. Are they a married couple? Are they mahram? How could you use a male and female to advertise the event in this way? Is there no ghira? How could our sisters be used in this way to advertise for such an event? And the most egregious thing out of all of this is, you see in the title it says Sunnah Soulmates. And I find this absolutely shocking. that you take an event like this, that's an imitation of the kuffar, that has nothing to do with Islam, and then you put this title and you connect it to the sunnah and to the way of our beloved messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this abomination of an event, to connect it to the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to use his sunnah connected to this event. Yani, where is the ghira and the jealousy for the deen, the jealousy for the way and the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How could such an event be connected or have anything to do with our beloved messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who came with the pure way, with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to connect it to such a thing? Is this the level that we've gotten to? My brothers and sisters in Islam, in the end, we speak out because we have ghira, we have jealousy for our deen, we have jealousy for our sisters, we have jealousy to see that this is how far we have sunk. To think that anything like this can be put together by Muslim organizations, by mashaykh. And the worst of all is that this event has Islamic justification, and they use verses and hadith to sanction this event. Now, normally I would not even bother discussing any evidences for such an event, because you don't need to discuss anything. The event speaks for itself. If you were to get any Muslim that barely has any knowledge of the deen, if you were to ask them that is it alright to bring together males and females, single brothers and sisters, and put them together at an event and allow them to free mix and interact, any Muslim will tell you that this is haram and it's not allowed. So then, but to have evidence and to sanction this with evidence, and the only reason I will discuss any of this evidence is to highlight how these evidences have been misused, and how the verse and hadith are always warped and reinterpreted to fit with whatever agenda somebody is trying to push. So if we go on their website, this Sunnah Soulmates website, and you find details of the event, and then they have a section on the Our Initiative where they outline what the purpose is and why this event is halal and what evidences they used. So let's take a look at some of these evidence to see how such an event was possibly sanctioned. So if we go on the website to see the website for this event, Sunnah Soulmates, to see what is the justification, what is the reasoning, how was this justified? So if you go on the Sunnah Soulmates, and you can find it, search it online, Sunnah Soulmates, and their website will come up, and you go to the section that says Our Initiative, and there's a long essay and article outlining the event and giving the justification. So I'd like to point out here and highlight and look at what is being said here. So they say one thing, they say our efforts at Sunnah Soulmates remain firmly grounded in Islamic principles. Brothers, whoever set this up, organizations, this event is not grounded but in Islamic principles. Being grounded in Islamic principles mean not just you follow some values, but it means that the actual action, the method is Islamic, not you just guided by something Islamic. Then, what's the main way they justify this event? This is the main argument, the first argument that is being used here. They're saying, furthermore, I'd like to draw attention to the principle that necessity can make what is generally haram halal. Alright? So what's the whole issue here? They know free mixing, holding an event and free mixing between males and females is haram. We all know this by necessity. This is 1,400 years of our history. We know this is completely haram. What are they saying here? We know it's haram, but due to the principle of necessity, now where it's become halal. Right? And we'd like to ask now, this ijtihad, who did this ijtihad? Because to do ijtihad, you need a mujtahid. So we'd like to know who is the mujtahid that's doing this ijtihad, and what are their qualifications to be a mujtahid and come out with this kind of ijtihad. And as I said, they're saying we're using the principle that necessity can make what is generally haram halal. And then they explain what's the necessity, what's the issue, why do we need to go to these lengths. They say this principle is not applied lightly, but is considered in situations where traditional avenues are lacking and individuals are resorting to clearly haram methods to find love. Right? So they're saying the traditional ways. What are the traditional ways? We know the traditional ways that what you always would do is your parents would seek a spouse for you. Whether you're a male or a female, your parents will speak to their relative, the mothers speak amongst each other, and they know what you're trying to look for, and they get together and they speak until they find you a brother or sister to get married to. This is how it's always been done. Or you go to your local sheikh, right? So they're saying this traditional method, it's lacking. So what individuals are resorting to clearly haram methods to find love. Listen to the logic here. And we know there's a problem, and absolutely, we understand. And we know people are doing haram. But they're saying because the people are doing haram, we're going to do something that's also haram. We're going to bring males and females together to free mix and to interact in a party atmosphere and a dating atmosphere, all right? Because we're trying to solve something that is haram. Do you understand the logic? So they're saying people are doing haram, so we're going to solve the haram by getting you to do haram, right? The logic here is unfathomable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not provide solutions for you to solve the haram through doing haram. He gives you halal means to solve it. And we ask why has it only become halal to free mix only at your event? If you're saying that we're going to use this principle of necessity and we're going to make what was haram into halal, the free mixing and the interaction between males and females, why is it only halal at your event? Why can't you give this fatwa to the Muslims and let them use this in general? Right? So they don't go towards haram, and because the traditional means have failed, why can't they use this principle everywhere? So why can't we have brothers and sisters having WhatsApp groups to interact and to get to know each other? Why can't they form their own groups? Why do they have to go to your event for this free mixing to become halal? Why can't they start themselves dating? Why? So we can get to know each other properly. Because one of the things they say in this whole article is that one of the things why marriages are failing is because brothers and sisters don't know each other properly, or the details of each other properly before the marriage, right? So we need to get them together at an event like this. So why can't they do that themselves? Why can't they come together and go to some restaurant in public and get to know each other before they get married? Why isn't that halal? Why is it this principle only allowed to be used at your event and nowhere else, if we're going to use your logic? So this is why they say there's a necessity. Traditional means have failed. People are resorting to haram, so we need to apply this principle of necessity. Now I want to take a bit of a look at this principle of necessity, because this principle is so misused, and everything that happens, so many things are justified by using this principle of necessity. We know that there is the usuli scholars in the madhahib, our scholars, there's a general principle in Islam that necessity can make something that is haram halal. And the where this is derived from is the famous verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know in a few verses in the Quran, He prohibited alcohol, He prohibited pig, He prohibited dead meat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنِ in flocks, for example, Surah Al-Ma'idah, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِإِثْمٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah says these things have been made prohibited, but whoever is compelled, notice here the focus on whoever is compelled, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ, whoever is compelled by necessity, فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ, due to starvation, فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ, then you can, if you find yourself stuck, you're in a desert, and there's no food, and you think you're gonna die of starvation and hunger, and you come across pig or you come across dead meat, Allah says in that situation, in that necessity, it's life and death, you can eat the haram thing, the dead meat and the pig, or drink the alcohol if you're thirsty. Alright? So this is the whole principle established upon necessity, life and death. So the scholars have used this principle, but they have put down strict conditions on how this principle is to be used. And don't take my words for it, but let's see what the scholars have said. Let's go to Islamic Q&A, the website that's run by Muhammad Salih al-Munajjid, the famous scholar. And he says, if you go on the website, he says, with regards to the conditions of a haram thing becoming permissible in the case of necessity, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Uthaymeen, he's mentioned 2 conditions for this. Okay? Muhammad ibn Uthaymeen, he's a contemporary scholar that he's well known, rahimahullah. He mentions there's 2 conditions. He says, for something, so what is forbidden becomes permissible in the case of necessity, but there are 2 conditions. The first condition, we should be compelled to do this specific haram thing, meaning that we cannot find anything with which to meet that necessity except this haram thing. Alright? So you're compelled. I mean need, it's life and death. The only way out of it is I need to use this haram thing and there's no other way. That's the first condition. The second condition, he says that the necessity should be met by that haram thing. So when I use that haram thing, I need to know for sure that it's going to fulfill my necessity. Alright? So these are the 2 conditions he placed down. You have to be compelled, there's no other way except to do that haram thing. And the second condition is that haram thing has to meet your necessity. Now, understanding that principle and the seriousness of necessity, it doesn't mean a bit of hardship. It doesn't mean that you're going through some tough things or it's difficult to do it. It means it's life and death, as the example of the verse, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ, whoever is compelled through starvation. And the scholars like Ibn Uthaymeen put 2 conditions, strict conditions. You're compelled to do that thing and necessity fulfills your need. So now we ask, in this situation of starting an event that's got free mixing and dating interactions between male Muslim sisters and brothers, what is the necessity that compelled you to do this haram thing? First of all, marriage is not even farad. Marriage is recommended. So how could you say we're going to do something haram to fulfill something recommended? And second of all, you're saying that the traditional means are failing. Why are they failing? They're not failing. This is the way Muslims have always gotten married in our history. And here in this community in Australia, when a brother wants to get married, he looks at his relatives, if he knows anyone, or he's seen anyone maybe at school or noticed someone. He speaks to his parents, specifically the mothers. The mother will go over to their house and speak with the mother or speak with her relatives, and she knows what he's looking for in a wife, and she'll look and make sure that sister has the necessary attributes he's looking for. And then when it's serious, they take it to the next step. He goes to that house and then they interact in the presence of mahrams. This is the traditional. Why has it failed? Why can't people still do this? Why do you need to hold an event like this and have the sisters put down their details and put pictures and profiles for people to scroll through, and the information was all out there? And if she goes to that event and nothing, she doesn't find anyone, does she go to another event, how many males does she have to interact with until all her haya and jealousy is gone? So the traditional methods are still there. Why have they failed? So there's no necessity here. Second of all, another way, because they mentioned that it's something about reverts and they have a hard time. They do have a hard time, reverts. But what they've always done is they go to the local masjid or the people that they know, the community that they became Muslim with. They put their names down with them. I'm looking for a wife or a husband. And the shaykh or the organization, when they find one, they get back to them and they look at what their details are. And when it gets serious, they bring them together. Why? Who has stopped the mashaykh and organizations doing this? This is still available. This is the traditional method. It hasn't failed. So there's no necessity here. And in the end, what we know on the ground, there's a lot of single brothers and sisters. We know that. But we ask the question, why is that the case? Specifically with the sisters, they're finding themselves 30 years old, unmarried, their biological clock is ticking, they want to get married, they can't find the husband. Why? What has led us down to this? It's not because the traditional methods have failed. What's been happening is just the feminist ideas that have been poisoning the minds of our sisters. On top of that, the mashayikh, instead of finding these feminist ideas and rejecting them and giving the sisters the Islamic understanding that Islam has made her a wife and a mother, and this is an honorable role, and this is her number one priority in life, to set up a household. What have they been doing? They've been getting all this feminist agenda, bringing it into Islam, changing the verse in the hadith to suit the feminist agenda, bringing this poison. Yes, you don't have to do housework. Yes, the Prophet SAS helped in the household, so the husband has to do with you in the household. Look at Khadija, she was a successful, independent businesswoman. They've been feeding our sisters all this poison. So what has happened? The sisters now, their whole outlook in life is to be a modern, educated, amazing, talented sister. So now she's finding herself at 30 years old. She hasn't gotten married yet because she's chased a uni degree. She's chased wealth, career. She's been used to being financially independent. And over time, she doesn't want to cook. She doesn't want to clean. She doesn't want to obey. She doesn't want to look after her household, raise children. She expects the husband to share in all the duties. She wants to go out. She wants to be on Facebook. She wants to wear the pants in the relationship, and then she's looking for the stuff that they put forth because they've convinced them your soulmate, and to find one true love. So she has all this whole list. He needs to be tall and handsome, and he needs to look like this and have this type of body, and he needs to be humorous and adventurous and take me on adventures. I want this type of household. I want this type of wedding. Endless demands. So in the end, the brothers, it's like marrying another male. Who is going to marry these sisters when they don't want to do anything? They don't want to cook. They don't want to clean. They have all these list of demands. They're very high maintenance. You can't keep up with their demands. And at any second, they can divorce you. They'll take your money and they'll take your children. This is what has led us to all these single sisters having trouble finding spouses. Not because the traditional means have failed. And this is not all the fault of the sisters. It's an issue with the brothers as well. Why? Because the brothers have not been raised to have the qualities of men, to have responsibility, to have leadership, to have an objective, an agenda, to open up a household, to raise a household, to have the responsibility of that household, to look and cater and care for a family. They've been brought up in luxury. They're worried about social media and going out, so they don't have the capability and the responsibility to carry the load of a household. So the fault is on both, but this is what has led us to this situation. So don't tell us that you're justifying this event because of the necessity. There's no necessity. So in the end, my brothers and sisters, we speak out because we have ghira for our deen, jealousy for our deen, jealousy for our sisters. To see them paraded at an event like this in front of males, to be checked out, to be looked at, to hand out your details in mails, to scroll through them. When Allah has honored you and covered you up, you can sit in your household and you have your guardian who looks out for your affairs and find you a spouse, and they come to you and you reject them. You stay honored. To lower our sisters to such a degree, we have ghira for our sisters. And so we ask the brothers that were behind this initiative to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first event happened, stop this initiative, check your intentions, go back and see what led us to this. And we ask the rest of the community and the mashaykh, where are the voices on this? This is clear, open, munkar. Where will this lead to the ummah down, to secularize the deen to this level where we mimic the kuffar in all our activities? We destroy the haya and the modesty of our brothers and sisters, to have them interacting and become accustomed to interacting in such a way. So this was the purpose of this video. It was out of a sense of sheer ghira and jealousy for the deen of Allah, to see the deen of Allah being used in this way, to see that the word of the Prophet ﷺ, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ attached to such an event, and hoping that inshallah there is still goodness in the ummah and we can reverse what has happened inshallah, and to warn the wider community that we should not be quiet about something like this. Jazakumullah khairan. Please like the video, please comment on the video, and please subscribe to the channel.